the way, I refer to them as training slaves in America. TSA, training slaves in America, because that's what it's all about. It's not about security at the airport. I don't know if this guy that took his clothes off has access to trial by jury. I do not know that. They may have some star chamber type court, and people don't know what star chamber means. It means dictatorial courtroom proceeding, kangaroo court, where there is not access to trial by jury.
Wow.
But I want to make this assertion. Even though trial by jury has been weakened because some laws we don't have access to trial by jury,
okay,
you can still get access to trial by jury through means that I'm not going to get into today. But you can always get a trial by jury. And there are enough laws and misdemeanors, felonies and misdemeanors, where you can get trial by jury. We can bring government to its knees by massive numbers of jury nullifications, just jury trials. Folks, the courthouse is not a center of justice. It is a profit center for the government. They have very few jury trials there, very few. And in a world that I'm describing, a jury revolution, where you have massive numbers of jury nullifications and even larger numbers of trials by jury, you're going to gridlock and just lock up the government. They can't function. So what they're going to do is they are going to write off certain laws, and they're going to stop prosecuting them. And they're also going to, every time there's a jury nullification, this is very important, every time there's a jury nullification, government projects power in one way only, by enforcing laws. If they cannot enforce a law, then their power bleeds away from them. And the power goes directly to the people, to you, to me, and to everybody else. It goes directly to the people, and we can use that power to, let's say, get government by the throat, metaphorically, in other ways, where jury nullification and trial by jury would not be involved. So I believe that jury nullification is almost a panacea. I said almost a panacea because there are some places where we don't have access to it.
Dwight, you are a jury educator, jury educator.
Right.
And you've mentioned before jury nullification and now jury revolution.
Right.
Now, if I'm understanding this correctly, jury revolution is a tremendous number of jury nullifications going on across the country.
Right, and the jury nullifications go on in large numbers across the country because the jury educators in large numbers have gotten out and done their job.
Okay, what's the job of a jury educator?
The job of the jury educator is to first learn about jury nullification, okay, and then tell others. And I did it as an individual with a few friends in the early 90s here in Boise. And I have always known that if a large organization like the NRA, for example, with their 2 to 3 million members, depending on how it's going on their front, on their issue, if those people would get behind jury nullification, we could have our jury revolution in a year or two. Today we have the Tea Parties. And if the Tea Party were to get behind this issue, in just one state, as little as one state, we could create a jury revolution in that one state. And this is what's going to happen if you have a jury revolution in one state. It's going to be in the mainstream media, whether they want to cover it or not. It's going to become big news, and it will spread. And besides that, as far as I know, the Tea Parties are capable of communicating with each other, coast to coast. And all it takes, now, in addition to the Tea Parties, you do have the National Rifle Association, the gun owners. There are so many constituencies that are benefited by jury nullification. You've got all the marijuana legalization people. You've got gun rights people. You've got the vitamin rights and the natural healing people. My memory is failing me. Those are the major ones, but there's a handful more of other interest groups that go from the far right to the far left. And all of those people could potentially, once they saw somebody like the Tea Party or somebody like the NRA start to do this and start to win some freedom, people want to play when they're winning. And once you start to win a little bit, other people want to jump on.
What do you see the effects? How would life be 2 years post a jury revolution?
Well, as I've already said, and this got me in trouble with my national jury education organization back in the 90s, half the lawyers would probably have to go buy themselves a bait shop or something to make a living. That's a joke.
Okay.
They wouldn't. America is the most heavily lawyered up nation on the planet. What is the harm of firing half of them or 3/4 of them? The reason that we live under tyranny today, one reason that we live under tyranny, the main reason, folks, is because we've been lazy as citizens. That's the reason we live under tyranny. And because when you hear a guy like me making these claims, you don't check them out. So please check me out. One reason is because lawyers work in the legislature and they pass more and more and more laws that make more and more things illegal that used to be our rights. And that creates work for more of their kind. More judges, more prosecutors, more defense lawyers, more public defenders. Get it? So if you're killing off entire classes of laws, if you're killing off jury nullifications, okay, to answer your question, how about getting rid of the IRS? Getting rid of about 3/4 of the BATF? Getting rid of most of the EPA and the Food and Drug Administration? I'm talking killing entire government agencies. Thomas Jefferson, I need to go to my man here. This is a flyer that I wrote. I don't know if you can see that. That's a picture of Thomas Jefferson. And Thomas Jefferson says, I don't need to read it, he said, trial by jury is the only anchor ever invented by man by which government can be held to the principles of the Constitution. The only anchor. And we have organizations that are term limits and tax limits and elect Joe Blow and elect Chad Inman and elect this guy and elect that guy and all kinds of schemes and property and proposition this and initiative that, and all of them get defeated because the powers that be go around the citizens' initiative, the proposition that gets successfully enacted. I've been paying attention for about 25 years. It seems like some people haven't been paying attention so long. And I notice that these other things don't work. For the cost of electing one politician, one major race in this state, we could create the condition where we could take power away from all the politicians and give it back to the people. For the cost of, the other thing is the conservatives are on defense all the time. We're always trying to stop the liberals from doing something. For the cost of defeating one bad law, we can create the condition where no bad laws can ever be enforced again. They will be killed off automatically once we have a critical mass of the population that understands their right and their power and their duty to nullify the law. And they show up for jury duty, and enough of them show up for jury duty knowing this right, this power, and nothing the judge can do to stack that jury, to tamper with that jury is going to stop them, because there's already a critical mass of them that show up for jury duty that already know it. And they also know a few other tricks that I can teach them on how to keep their mouth shut until the right time.
Well, I've never served on a jury. I've been called up for jury duty, but never had the opportunity to serve. I've had the opportunity to go through the Citizens Law Academy at the 4th District in the state of Idaho,
Right.
and had an opportunity to speak with the lawyers and the judges. And with the information that I gathered from you the first time we met several years ago,
Right.
I asked some pointed questions, and some of them didn't like it. And so that's one of the reasons. Not that they didn't like it, they were uncomfortable with this thought process when I was asking them about a jury nullification, jurors and the judge's orders to the jury.
Right.
Now, first of all, when you get charged with a crime, a criminal offense, you have that option of a jury, trial by jury or the judge. And what we have is the right in what you're saying to say that law is not good. That is not a good law, and we can either hang that jury, or we can actually all 12 jurors nullify that charge.
Right.
Now, how does that affect the law? You take the nullification, and
Good question.
then you move into the law, and we just have a few more minutes. So,
A jury nullification has no legal precedent. Absolutely none. If they find me innocent, they find me not guilty of a crime, and the next week they could prosecute you. But here's what a jury nullification does do. It is a punch to the gut, a psychological punch to the gut of every cop, every prosecutor, every judge that is involved in that case. And furthermore, it's not just those few. It is a punch to the gut of every cop, every sheriff, every deputy, every prosecutor, every bureau rat, every judge that is paying attention, and they will always all be paying attention if we're standing in front of the courthouse telling them what we're doing. Right up front, this is a jury revolution, and we challenge you to come out here and debate us. They are paying attention. The reason that they were uncomfortable with your questions, is because they are engaged in one of the biggest cover-ups, one of the biggest lies that there is. And the only lawyers that I have ever had temporarily agree to debate me were wet behind the ears, little kids, fresh out of law school, and within about 2 or 3 days, after they said, yeah, I'll debate you, they changed their story and they said, no, I don't want to debate. And that's because they either looked into it, or their boss at the law firm picked up the phone and said, Sonny boy, you don't know what you're doing. Stay away from that. First they ignore you. How does it go? First they ignore you, then they ridicule you, then they fight you, and then you win. And for years they were just ignoring me, and there are ways that you can push them to fighting you.
well, we don't want to fight, but we are willing to fight for our individual liberties and our on the founding principles. Now, we're wrapping things up here, and how can people get more information?
Okay, they want to go on the internet and Google for the term jury revolution. My name is Dwight Calloway. You will find the stuff that I've written. You also want to Google for the term, or search for the term, history of trial by jury. Excuse me, that's incorrect. History of jury nullification. History of trial by jury is a much longer blurb. Okay, it's like it's a book. The history of jury nullification is there are treatments of that, a couple of pages long. It's easy to read. And then the other thing that's very powerful to read is the quotations. So you would Google jury nullification quotations, and there are several lists of quotations. You read what our founding fathers have said, and you read and you see the vehemence with which they said it, which was criticism of the judges. And it will, I believe that people will be moved. And then the other thing they need to do is to contact Tea Party Boise and say, I'm interested. Okay. But you can get information. You can also contact me again. Dwight Calloway. I'm at yahoo.com. Dwight Calloway at yahoo.com.
Like the golf club.
Like the golf club. Put jury or something jury in the subject line.
Well, I really appreciate you showing up and discussing this very important topic. I mean, it's 1/3 of our federal and state government, and it's 1/3 of the power. And we used to have a just and moral society, and now it seems like we have an unjust or legal society, an immoral society. So we need to kind of take the ship and turn it back towards that area. So,
if I can just say this. The jury is not just supreme to the judicial branch. The jury is supreme. The jury is over all 3 branches. This is all of government that the jury is actually superior to. Executive and legislative.
Thank you again, Dwight Calloway at yahoo.com. And this is Chad Inman signing out, and have a great day for my fellow Idahoans.